Hey all, Sir Penguin here, and we are back with another 2v2 replay. Now this one is going to be myself and Aman. We've been taking on the ladder. Our goal is to hit Conqueror this season. Now, I think it's pretty possible. The games have been looking good for us. We're on our way, but you know, the ladder is its own beast, so we're working our way up, battling through some games of all kinds of levels and all kinds of difficulty here. A little bit of a misclick on my part. We zoom in on right here. But anyway, what we're really trying to do is get better at our games here, get better at our 2v2s and all that kind of stuff. So we've been messing with our comp a little bit, messing with our strategies. One thing is Aman, who usually plays English, has kind of converted in team games fully to France, and it's been a big boon for us. So you'll see some of that in this game. Always good to have knights in a 2v2, and that's just, you're gonna see that everywhere. In fact, you're just gonna see it all over the place. So anyway, there might be some more videos. I might make this a series. It might be Aman and I's road to Conk, so let's dive on into it. On the top left side, Aman and myself, I am in the pink here as the Abbasid. I'm going to be going for a 2TC opener with just sort of standard Abbasid military wing stuff. Next to me, in purple, Aman will be on the French. Across from us, our opponents, our challengers, as it were. Both of these players have been Conk 1 at least once in their gaming time. But they tend to land in the platinum area by the end of the season, it looks. So, you know, a little bit of sweat to get that Conqueror, and then just some fun games for the rest of the season. So these guys are tough. They're strong players. Their quote-unquote hidden elo or whatever is quite high, which is why we all got matched up. And as a result, we had quite a fun game. So, Rye and New Win, which I get is a joke, pun of sorts, is going to be in the blue Mongols. Next to Rye, in the green, we've got CEO of Oats playing one of my favorite civs, the Deli. And so him coming up as Deli, I really I felt good knowing that I could sort of predict some of the enemy's moves here even better than usual. I mean, you can kind of predict and anticipate, but it's nice to be able to anticipate well. Now, we've got the Mongols opening with Dark Age Horsemen. And this is actually a good play to delay us. This new Dark Age Horseman timing. My only thought is, I've heard you're supposed to open with one horseman and wait, because these two horsemen come out too late if you delay for the stone. So you come out with one horseman, then you wait and you pop out two horsemen once you have the stone. But this guy's gonna go ahead and just pop out two horsemen and move on out. So Rye coming across the map. Aman and I, meanwhile, preparing. Aman's going School of Cavalry, and no big surprise there for French. If we see a Chamber of Commerce, ask us if we're doing okay, if we're in the right headspace, because there's probably something wrong. Meanwhile, I'm going military wing on my way up. I'm gonna try to send those units across the map and delay Delhi's, you know, build up, as it were. But the thing is, Delhi gets units out pretty quick, so this military wing becomes pretty useless early on. So the main thing, though, is we spot these horsemen out and completely change my plans. Okay, we got to defend the stone. We got to defend Aman's gold, which is here in the back. And Aman gonna lose a villager to the early double horseman. I wish we could see the splits of the vills more clearly on our little UI, and I think team gamers complain about this at the beginning of every single team cast. But we'll get on into it and here anyway. We got a little bit of dancing coming in between these two. Here comes the spear archers as well. The follow-up here for Mongols is just gonna... Actually, there really isn't much of a big follow-up here. Scout checking out I was checking out what Delhi's up to. Pretty standard stuff, except the Dome of the Faith instead of the Tower of Victory. I'm not sure how I feel about this, especially going up against Abbasid and French. You need to get out. You need to move and do some damage. Now, we actually had a little split. We passed right by each other, and I left my stone exposed here to those two horsemen. Aman has actually pulled off the gold to go into early horsemen, which is good play against Mongols. It's a little bit safer, all things considered, so he doesn't have to risk villagers on the gold. And this is a little bit of miss micro on my part. This villager turns paths back across the military wing and gets killed by those horsemen. So Aman and I both downed a villager early here to those horsemen, which is pretty, I would say pretty embarrassing for both of us, but you know, it's not so bad. We got some horsemen duking it out in Aman's base. Aman able to get those horsemen up, and since these are Dark Age horsemen, the early horsemen for Mongols, they are not going to be able to put up much of a fight. Just going to have to use that signal arrow to boost out of there, and Aman going to chase it down. But yeah, they're going to outrun just a little bit with that little boost. And the thing is, once they get ahead, they have the same speed. They'll just keep getting ahead. Aman popping a tower on the gold. That'll sort of protect our back in general. I almost think, I don't know, maybe Aman should have opted for the front gold first and then gone to the back gold in hindsight, but they're just learning as we go. We had a lot of gold and stone. This is actually a really good spawn for us here at the beginning of this game. Gold and stone, just really in high availability in the back of our base here. Aman gets that tower up, and meanwhile, CEO of Oats going for a beautiful little deli play. The classic Ghazi opener with the Scholar in the stable. So it's going to be primarily horsemen here early on for our opponents, which does let me kind of get away with going into Spear Archer. Second TC coming up on that golden stone, covering an additional gold for Aman as well. And things are feeling pretty good for us. We're in a good spot. We're not too delayed. While this TC got delayed by that raid, it didn't get horribly delayed. Immediately missed macro onto the stone, which, you know, you expect. you just prepare for these kinds of things on your Conqueror climb, you know? I pull them off pretty quick. Back onto the gold. Barracks, double archery range. We're getting ready for some action. The Ghazi coming on and across. Horsemen coming across the other way, but those Ghazi are going for my vills. I managed to spot it in time. Kind of expecting that Ghazi timing at the 7-minute mark here. I'm going to use that TC to try to pick off a Ghazi or two. It's not going to happen. So just start producing military with all this production I dropped down. Use the double TC as a way to make these units. And I'm short food, so the villagers actually not coming through because the fresh foodstuffs is late. Another mistake that I've been making a lot, which is really silly, I must say. There's a couple little Abbasid mistakes that I really need to get out of my sort of bad habits. Meanwhile, the horsemen are between Aman and Rai are duking it out over here. Aman doing a good job controlling his horsemen, not taking any fights he can't win, and he's just going to pop under my TC, which forces Mongol to come around. Still not a lot of villager production for me. This is a really bad delay. Aman countering out those horsemen and Keshiks. Trade going across for Rai now, and a wall coming up for Delhi in the middle because Delhi is going to start. Although, albeit a little bit late, I want to say, especially given that we've gone for the Dome of the Faith, now going for those sacred sites. And I think we should have seen this, like I said, a little bit earlier. 8:30 is quite late to be moving on to the sacred site. We want to see more like a 7:30 timing or 7:15 with the Dome of the Faith. Those Ghazi pulling back to their wall. There's a ton of horsemen here. I'm too slow to do a whole lot with my predominantly infantry mass, so I'm just trying to cause some havoc and support Aman with his early units here. Because I have gotten 2 TC, I am late to production. But I'm getting in here now with some unit production, which is going to be pretty strong for us here. Delhi's got the archers out, though. I thought he was Tower Victory, so I couldn't fight this because I didn't scout well enough. But he actually wasn't Tower Victory, so these archers are not gonna sort of counter the Abbasid archers very well with their speed or anything. But the Ghazi will sure be effective as my spears go down to the archers and I get surrounded by the horsemen and lose everything there in the middle. Meanwhile, Aman going out for some distant food, going for the deer. We came here for the deer. Why are we eating the sheep first? All right. My unit going down. I'm gonna have to rebuild on the back here. So we start rebuilding. And we were a little exposed here. I think without, you know, A-Man's little horse mass, we would have lost the game right here. They could have raided, they could have been really aggressive, but A-Man thankfully holding it down for our 2v2 team after losing my little squad, being quite greedy on my end here, and losing a whole bunch of units. My scout's gonna spot out this scholar, and so we're gonna try to cancel that left side sacred site grab. But the middle sacred site, under the control of the Delhi and the Mongols with that wall, and walls coming up now as well on the left side to block out the French and secure the gold from those sacreds. Meanwhile, A-Man has some walls on the side of his base to stop all these horse raids. Has actually gone into a ton of barracks to produce spearmen because we've only been facing cavalry units. Now, as we've seen, Delhi has decided to start converting into archers, but Delhi doesn't need a whole lot of production, so these two buildings are all it is. So we're going to see a lot of Ghazi still. We're going to see lots of archers, and that's about it. Traders coming across. Mongols going to start feeling really good with their gold and going to get all those upgrades and things as a result. A-Man manages to prevent the rest of this wall going up, which is going to be really useful for him here. As the knights come across the map, he's going to ride on past the Delhi archers who are just sort of poking and gonna pick off the scholar before the sacred comes up. So we're at the 11-minute mark and only one sacred site has been taken. So from our side here, A-Man and I are feeling pretty good. There is trade up and we haven't had a chance to counter it, but what we really have had is a chance to pressure these two in the middle and pressure them off the sacred sites. Now, because I see all of Delhi's army chasing A-Man around, I go for a push here with my Spearman Archer, knowing I can counter the Keshiks with my spears, and knowing if there's a few archers here or there, I can counter them out while they are forced to build their walls and run back. This is going to give me a chance to try to secure and stop the sacred gold from ticking in for Delhi. And as you can see, Delhi not feeling super good on the gold here, so preventing these sacred sites has been quite strong for A-Man and I. But meanwhile, raids coming in the back managed to avoid it just in time. A-Man chasing out those Ghazi, and A-Man doing so much work here against all these mounted units. Archer shows up to try to stop this, but they're just queuing here, and Delhi's forced to fall back with all these spears. Not enough archers just yet. And I have more archers on the way. Production popping off over here. I am forced off these berries, though, because I know these raids are over here. There's not a whole lot I can do about my food, so food struggles were a big standard for me in this game, as you can see in the bottom left. Forced off the wood again. Gonna lose a villager there. We are on 2 TC. We're not overtly worried, but we're gonna lose another vill over here because, you know, you're not paying attention. And I say you, me. It's me. I'm not paying attention. We do lose a Keshik for that, though. 2 villagers for a Keshik. 3 villagers. Oh my god, that raid was worse than I thought. Rewatching this, I'm so embarrassed. And I you know, it happens. It happens to everyone. We lose some vills to that Keshik raid, but meanwhile, decide to just push it out and try to do some damage the other way. That tower is going to come up on my berries, so I'm going to re-secure some food for myself, but like I said, food has been an issue for me here, and I haven't really had the wood due to the archers in production to get farms up or anything, despite our lack of map control here. A-Man and I going for a big fight on the front here of Delhi's base, hoping to pick off some vills or pick off some units, but Delhi holding strong. Meanwhile, Mongol reinforcements coming to help out. Now, quite a few Delhi vills gonna go down now, though, as A-Man just runs past the fight and starts cutting up those Delhi vills, shooting in as well, and because of the distraction from the knights, able to pick off some vills myself and take a lot of units out here on the front for Delhi. Mongols and Delhi gonna be forced to have to counter this, but Delhi being Delhi just has too much, and we are forced back in this long feudal grind that we ran into in this game. And like I said, the food is my biggest issue. Right up here, should have been able to castle age, but I've been just battling for security. Little scouting on my berries as well, and I'm gonna lose that whole archer mass. And again, A-Man and I not in a great position. A little bit of overcommitment from A-Man and I here in terms of aggression, but A-Man's got the food. These farms coming up, this set of deer really pumping out those spearmen and knights to keep us alive. My food's struggling, so my unit production's struggling as a result, which could hurt us here. That being said, a few spears can really carry in a fight like this. Archer is able to take out the enemy spearmen, and with the help of A-Man's units, we actually have a stronger front line. Just not a whole lot of archers here for Delhi, and I think if our Delhi opponent had made more archers to counter my spear archer, we would have been in a lot more trouble. From the push coming in now, as these Keshiks dive onto my front line, a little bit of miss micro on my part, not really paying attention as I'm trying to fix up my macro. We managed to catch out some Ghazi, catch out some fight, but gonna lose a spear to the archers and lose some archers to the Ghazi, but the archers are left exposed. Horseman just a little far back, and A-Man gets some really nice value with a charge on the Knights here. Lots of fighting here in the middle. The spears and the Knights coming out. Again, not enough archers to counter out all these spears, and then not enough micro to pull back from this. I think, you know, A-Man's production, A-Man was a huge part of this game. I took a beating this game. But here we go. Lots of archers coming out, moving out. We're going to clear out the spears of the enemy, clear out the enemy in general. So 2 cleanups in a row, back and forth, and that's why this feudal grind keeps going. More units on the way. Now this is sort of A-Man and I's opportunity to pull back and heal up, but we do not like to leave Delhi sitting on all this gold, because again, Delhi has not gotten the gold to age up. I think there's a ton of scholars back here for production, but choosing not to age up here. So A-Man and I keep the pressure on these sacred sites, knowing if we can shut this down, we can slow down Delhi's castle age, which is probably one of the scariest prospects for us as this game continues in our current position. Little archer duel. Again, I thought he had Tower of Victory. Again, bad miss scouting on my part, because they were firing at the same rate as my units. You can kind of tell the difference, but I was so like stuck in it. Everything seems a little faster in these games that I just didn't really notice. Anyway, this duel, trying to keep this wall open so A-Man can keep butting through. Meanwhile, A-Man gathering food on the other side. Mongol also gathering food on the other side. A little bit of mis-scouting. You can always see it in these games with A-Man and I, where our mis-scouting leads to a lot of damage on the backside. I'm gathering food finally out away from my base, which is a little bit scary because there's not a lot of protection out there. And that's going to come to haunt me later. We'll see a little bit of APM stretching in the middle of this game. I say APM stretching, it's more focus stretching at that stage in this game. Archer's still trying to take out the enemy archers. A-Man frontlining against the Keshiks for me. Not quite enough for us just yet. I'm forced to fall back a little bit with my archers, but we're feeling pretty good here. Decide to go in. Nice little duel between the Knights and the Keshiks here, but there's so much archer damage coming in from these upgraded Delhi archers up against my upgraded archers. We've got those archer upgrades, but too many Keshiks here, too many spears, and A-Man's front line goes down, and I'm going to be forced to fall back behind A-Man's units here. And again, it's just a grind. We're both losing so many units to this, and both teams really committed to the feudal push right now. I think A-Man and I had no choice but to really commit to an early game, given that we were against Mongol and Delhi. If we weren't careful, we could let them take map control, let them take even our side of the map. So our goal here was to prevent Mongol Delhi map control early in this game, which we know they could take if we did not duke it out. So 2TC duking it out. I have gone for a farm transition as well as the food on the berries in the back. This food from the berries really propelling my strength here. I've got a lot of gold. I've over macroed on the gold with these villagers. And while it did get me a lot of upgrades and stuff, now I'm floating. And you can see a lot of food float for A-Man as well. Maybe they should be going into Horsemen at this stage. So a little bit of float, and that's the case for both teams. You start to see that as things get a little hectic, I would say, in this level of game. A-Man can then accidentally throw away some spears there. It looks like they tried to attack, not on stand ground. Meanwhile, Keshiks spot out the wall in the back, but just in time, my villagers finish the front one. I see that, pull my vills back inside real quick. I've got some spears here to deal with these Keshiks, and I'm trying desperately to finish this wall. Running vills over. Are we gonna make it? I tried to get the fast wall. This villager got stuck on this wall for some reason and wouldn't fast wall. and then I fast-walled myself out. So a couple of spears go through the gate here as I planned ahead, and those Keshiks are not long for this world as I have some spears to protect that. Meanwhile, Deli once again secures that center sacred site. This fight forced to fall back from, which has been continuous, just too much Deli, too many Keshiks. That trade really paying off for Mongol, but we're all still kind of stuck in feudal. A ton of food again for Aman, a ton of gold for me, but I am trying to get that castle age now. It looks like I'll be the first one able to sort of sneak that castle age through. Yeah, I was gonna see. I know Deli got a pretty fast one too. I'll definitely be the first one to sort of sneak the click up at the very least. It just takes a while for Abbasid. Knights duking it out with the Keshiks once again. We're at the 20-minute mark, and the first person in this game to go castle is me. Which, for those of you who watch my stream, you'll know that that's kind of silly. I'm not a big-time castle enjoyer. Well, I'm a big-time castle enjoyer, but only when I'm set up for it, let's say. So I like a good long feudal. I like a good long feudal into that strong castle age. But this Deli mass is scary. I see it coming coming up and around, and I decide to pull back to my base. We're not fighting this. Too many archers out here for Deli with that double production. Aman, with these walls, decides not to chase, just pull his knights around, but part of me honestly thinks, well, we had to hold Deli. We had to hold Deli. I think I yelled at him to hold Deli. It's like, okay, I can take out Mongol real quick, just don't commit. I didn't commit. I let him commit to me, trying to secure my food here. And this is actually a big issue for Deli here. Not going to micro a ton on those archers. And so the archer mass gets killed by some of my spears on the front, and I actually managed to balance it out pretty quick. Now, Rai and Nguyen, the Mongol player, also goes castle age. We got 2 castle ages coming through, which is so funny. I think I clicked up before him, but because of the building and because of how Abbasid works, I didn't get it up. Now some micro going on in the back as there's Keshiks raiding my wood line. I've got textiles now, so my villager is going to be a little bit better, and I block in the Keshik with some micro there to get my spears with the extra Abbasid range to stab from behind. Archer mass getting up. Castle age gonna come through, and only the second castle age of the game coming through at the 22-minute mark. Lots of archers setting up here, and the fight gonna come off in the middle. Spearman holding that front line against the Keshiks, and that is a nice spear mass. The Keshiks overcommit there, and Mongols are gonna lose a lot. Don't have the upgrades yet, so that's an overcommitment a little too early from Rai here, and also an overcommitment from myself. My upgrades are not coming in either. I chased this far too far. The Deli archers come back, and I run on back. Just a lot of back and forth here, a lot of chasing of Keshiks. Aman using his Knight Mass just to force Rai back. Rai again still... Okay, we get the veteran Keshiks through, but that's not going to be able to fight the Royal Knight Mass of France here. And Aman has time to build up and hasn't been raided on this side food. A little bit of a missed macro mistake here. No new mill coming up because of the no idle villager mark. Spear's gonna go into those Keshiks. There's so many Deli archers here. I made this mistake a lot this game. A little too much forward spearman fighting and not enough sort of defense to this. And I don't have my upgrades yet. Spearman upgrade only just coming through. So this is a mistake people make at like this high level. I say high level, like pretty high level very often, which is attacking too early. Despite having a pretty good mass in the castle age, you need your upgrades. And so my upgrades finally coming through. I was hoping to cancel out any Deli shenanigans in the middle, any Mongol shenanigans, but we all hit castle age now. As we all decide, we all agree basically, all right, it's castle age time. This is now a castle age fight. We agree to fight this way now. From here, we are at the 20-minute mark. It makes sense. Bit of missed macro from some of these players. Too much food, too much float. It looks like Mongol trying to go Imperial, actually. I don't know if that's going to pay off here. Mongol raiding my farms, and these raids are just going to be coming for so long through this game. Of course, with my spearmen and my archers to push that back, Kurlatai gets canceled out by Aman. Do a little bit of a quick wall here to shut down the Keshik raid, but spears just aren't fast enough, and there's just a little hole. He knows he goes through the house hole there. Good job by Rai to try to avoid losing all of these Keshiks here, but managed to put a lot of damage on them nonetheless. There's a lot of low health Keshiks here. They need to heal up. Maybe attack my walls up here with my idle Vills hanging out. These idle Vills actually needing to go onto another resource, but I'm forced right now to sort of micro this out and figure out what my plan is. I already should be moving them to the wood line or something like that. Just get them gathering. That's some bad idle time. Should we stay here and see how long? Alright, Sir Penguin. I'm talking to you from the future. You've got 12 idle villagers. Here they go. There's a notice, and Sir Penguin moves them to think about it. And they pop back on out. Actually heading back to the base to build some farms. Pretty nice there. Meanwhile, mass getting set up for both of us. Just tons of production for Delhi here. Delhi really getting that castle age. Triple blacksmith. The upgrades. A big necessity as we're all castle age at about the same time. And a keep coming up in the middle. Aman and I spot this out just in time. Coming to fight for this spot. We do not want this keep to go up. It's dangerous though. Aman screaming at me to get these vills here. We use voice chat when we're playing together. Screaming at me to kill these vills, and I'm trying. I start screaming. I can't click them because this freaking Keshiks. They start riding back and forth in front of the vills. It takes forever to get that last one and just stop the keep from coming up. Units now fighting it out over this keep, and there's no villagers left. And Aman with the veteran Knight Mass is going to be a lot here. Has had a lot of time to build up units. Tons of Abbasid archers for myself and spears to counter the Keshiks. And now Delhi and Mongols forced off of this position. Not a bad situation for anyone, nevertheless. You see Mongols forced to spend money on units, even though they had been floating for that Imperial age. We don't see any Imperials coming through, surely enough. Aman just dove in the middle with all these infantry to support him. And yeah, things looking good. A big villager mass. Probably came to do the castle and forgot he queued them here, so we get a bunch of free Delhi villagers here. And this game is really in our favor at this point. The big push coming now in Castle Age. And this is what I love, chat, viewers, about Abbasid Castle Age. It's so strong. You get your upgrades, and for what it's worth, composite bows, arrow damage, well, +1. I was working towards the +2. Actually should have had it. +2 coming up next. But we're making Gulans and such. But with the crossbow and composite bow archers, there's still a lot of damage coming out from these units here. All the Delhi upgrades not quite through yet, so it's a good timing attack for us here. Trying to raid a little bit here, but actually have some reinforcements that are stuck attacking the resource buildings. Aman raiding deep on the back. My reinforcements now gathered and on the way. We have a lot of crossbows here to deal with these armored units. A little bit of misclicking on these archers. But we got spear and infantry just sort of up in here, and it's a mosh pit. Aman riding all through, and CEO of Oats, very good game. Very good game, Rye. And thank you both for a wonderful game. This was a fun 2v2, back and forth like crazy. Tons of units coming out. GG's is called. And yeah, just a little view of the bases here before we get booted out. 2 TC for Aman and I. Aman goes on a second TC later in the game after over macroing some stone. And we get the win. Thanks all for joining us. If you're here on YouTube, like and subscribe. I appreciate it. It means I can create more content for you guys. I have more time to create some content for you guys, and I have some little bit of a motivation to do so too. Let me know if you enjoy. Pop a comment, anything like that, and you have a wonderful day. Thanks.